All right, good morning everyone. Welcome to today's session. Thank you very much for everyone joining us online as well. Apologies for the short delay. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are live from the City Hall of Setúbal in Portugal today, where the CLIMAAX consortium is gathered for the General Assembly of the project and this webstival. We're very thankful for the municipality of Setúbal for hosting us today. My name is Jip Lensen and I will be your host for today. I'll be guiding you through today's session, the webstival on navigating to more climate resilient regions. So we have a packed schedule for today, so let's walk you through today's agenda. We will start with a thorough introduction into the project. Thereafter, we have a segment on the open call that's open now until the 8th of March, where we will talk about all the benefits that it has, and we'll talk about the information on how to apply for this open call. We'll have a very short 10-minute break after that, and thereafter we hear from our pilot regions who are already in the program. Thereafter, we'll have a moment for the CLIMAAX sister projects to pitch their projects. And we will conclude today's event with an extended Q&A moment to ask all the questions that you may have about the open call and how to apply for it. So, then some housekeeping. This meeting is live streamed and also recorded. On-site participants are encouraged to physically raise their hand in case they would like to add something or have a question. It is important that everyone who wants to contribute in this way has a seat with a microphone so that everyone online can hear you. Then for the people online, we have a chat box enabled for you. We want this to be a very participatory session, so please, if you have any questions, write them in the chat and I'll make sure to get to them as soon as possible. If there is not enough time, I might direct you to the extended Q&A moment after the regular program, where we have time to answer any question that you may have. So, without further ado, let's go into the first session, a deep dive into the CLIMAAX project. For that, joining us today is Dace, who is a data analyst at the Latvian Environment, Geology and Meteorology Center, Bart van den Hurk, coordinator of the CLIMAAX project, Michaela Bachmann, researcher at YASA, Anna Pirani, and Reinhard Mecheler, also active at YASA. So I would like to welcome to the stage Dace for her intervention.
So good morning, everybody. As Jip mentioned, my name is Dace Andersone, and I'm from Latvia, from Latvian Meteo Center. And today I'm the first speaker, and I'm happy to be first because I want to do this presentation to tell regions and people outside of our climate risk assessment bubble what we really are, and to please don't be scared of the words and things what we are speaking about, because at first this presentation will be mostly what were my first thoughts about this project and what we are doing, and what are my thoughts right now, because they have been changed. Because I want to start also with my background. I'm a more technical person. My background is from mathematics, statistics, and mostly this all part in the CLIMAAX, it's in two parts. We are saying that there is framework and toolbox, and toolbox is the more technical one, and for me it's lovely, I'm enjoying it, but framework part was the scary one. So at first I saw this thing what I called climate risk assessment circle, and I was like, okay, it's very pretty and beautiful colors and so on, but there was one issue that I understood the words, like I do know what is scoping, I do know what is risk assessment, but when I have to actually start doing something with it, I have no idea where to start. And I guess that there are a lot of people out there that have the similar situation, that are thinking the same, that, okay, I have heard those names, but I have no idea where to start. And as a pilot, we had to start somewhere because we have to move forward. So we were thinking how to start, and people in the project helped us. They gave us a few simple questions. Who benefits from the risk assessment? What is the aim of the climate risk assessment, etc.? And those were the first first questions that we tried to answer, and we got some few first thoughts about what actually is climate risk assessment and where we could go. And at that point of view, I understood that we have to think in two ways. First of all, we have to think wide, because qualitative risk assessment might help a lot of people, the whole society. And also we have to think small, because we cannot be the only ones that are doing it. We need organizations and names that could actually help us, because climate risk assessment, it's a puzzle that has to be put together from more than few people. And afterwards, after answering to these questions, we got new thoughts and even more questions, and those questions were based on the climate risk assessment circle. I started to understand where it actually starts, how to ask myself what is first the questions that could be answered on the scoping phase, and so on, so on. So new answers lead to new questions, and again, new answers lead to new questions, and it's going in a circle right now, also in my head. And right now, I am feeling that I can finally see where it will go. I am finally seeing some logical structures that are into this climate risk assessment. So I would say that please don't be scared of the words at the beginning. And I am trying to make some logical structures as well into this. So maybe in the future I will have a logical structure and like an example that I could give to others and help other, for example, technical person like I am to understand more of this, like a bit of political point of view, because yeah, at first it is scary, but right now I've been doing it for a few months, and I would say that right now I'm not scared of this climate risk assessment circle. Right now it seems quite friendly for me. Of course, I have to go deeper into it, and I have to make new things and understand more and more. But still, yeah, right now it's a friend, and I'm not scared of it. So I guess that people from regions will feel the same. At first, please, yeah, don't be scared, and feel free to ask any questions to us, because there are very smart people here that could help you. So yeah, that was a brief introduction of me and of things what I think about this climate risk assessment and this project. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Datse, for that great introduction there. And I would like to welcome Bart for his contribution. Thank you once again.
Yeah, that was the best introduction you could actually give. Don't be scared and just dive into it. Can I bring up the slides here? Can I just push forward? Sorry. Yeah. That is actually a very good schedule for where say, the big ambition of the European Union or European Commission's mission on climate adaptation, it has to be translated to something in a very practical sense, as Dutch is just illustrating. And so there was a call out, a research call out a couple of years ago to help regions to bring, say, climate resilience to the region. And climate resilience is another buzzword. It's a big word that actually means that, yeah, climate is changing, and we have to know what is this changing and what is actually the direction to which it can affect society. And to make sense of that, a couple of steps can be systematically analyzed. And this call that we now followed up with the CLIMAAX project is actually the step that brings regions to a process that they can actually systematically explore what is the climate risk look like and what is actually the features that have the potential to affect our society. And that is what we try to bring to the region. So and a framework that Dutch was illustrating is indeed nothing more than like a mental help. It's a tool to mentally make the steps that you actually need to go through it. We also figure that quite a few regions do have experts, or they can recruit experts to carry out the more technical work. So in the project we also developed this, what we call a toolbox. We have inside the project 5 pilots there that can help testing out both the framework and the toolbox. But maybe a very interesting and elegant support function that CLIMAAX also offers, and that will be discussed later today as well, is what we call a cascading fund. So the European Commission has given funding to the CLIMAAX project, but CLIMAAX is cascading that funding to regions that can apply for such funding. And I'll briefly touch on each of the 3. Yeah, as Duitje says, this is a very conceptual figure that comes out of the brains of academic experts and theoretical people, but it has practical significance because it is what I say, it's more like a talking stick. You put it on the table and you indeed pose the questions that Duitje was illustrating. What is actually the threat? What are the groups that are affected? Who are the people that have to act for it? What are the policy environments in which I can act? What kind of financial resources do I have? It gives you a very systematic approach to make sense of the whole problem. Also, in very practical senses, we get very often the question, if we look at climate change and future projections, the number of future projections is infinite. There's more scenarios than we have people on the planet almost. So there is a lot of questions about, yeah, what is then the most decent set of scenarios that I should choose? And also this framework helps you to systematically explore what is actually a sensible what is a choice for the scenarios. And also think about what is this climate risk assessment landing? Where does it land in the policy framework? Yeah, the toolbox. We do not bring a lot of new stuff on the block, on the road. There's a lot of tools out there in the scientific community. We are bringing together a package that actually gives access to all these tools for different sort of expert layers. So on a very basic layers, we make linkages to the Joint Research Center's Risk Data Hub. Maybe some of you will have heard of it. And we make a link to that and give very safe, first quick scan kind of information that gives a first impression of what the risk profile looks like in a regional level. We go a bit deeper for the local users to really zoom into the region, where we can also allow people to bring in their own data on hazards or exposures. And for the real technical experts, we can even download the whole package, bring it to your own computing environment, and make manipulations to adjust it to your own practice and toolkits. And that all is packaged in the toolbox. It's currently under development. The pilots have helped a lot to fill it up, but it is of course available to everybody, and for sure also for the applicants for the cascading fund. That's on this slide. So we have been granted a sum of money that we can distribute to, somewhere between around 60 regions we would like to service with this fund in this project. And for that we opened the first call for applications already the 8th of December. It's open for 3 months until the 8th of March. And applicants can make a proposal to this fund to get a financial amount of money to carry out a climate risk assessment for their own region. Yes. It goes via a pretty formal selection procedure. We really would like to get the funding there where it makes the most difference. So we do prioritize regions that have a larger vulnerability or somewhat less experience with these kinds of things. And that's also why we have 2 calls open. The first one is open with very generic application criteria. We will look at what the portfolio of projects will be that is going to be funded after the first round, and then we'll open a second one that can be tailored to a specific subgroup of potential regions to bring the balance there. As we speak, 8th of December, the call opened. Currently, we have seen 110 entities, groups that started an application. That is maybe sometimes just fill out an email address, but sometimes already do the work. One of them is already submitted. So I think this is a very good start. So at least the word is being spread, and also this webstival is of course intended to get some communication. I will skip the technical outlines of the applications. We would like you to systematically do a couple of layers in the application, but that will come back later in a bit more detail, I think, for the sake of time. Yeah, and finally, it's a service to regions, but of course we also want to learn something from the European scale. We have these pilots that really help very well to design the framework toolbox and the application procedure, but you also would like to monitor how the climate risk assessments are going to be picked up. We want to see how the support is being appreciated. We may have to fine-tune some things while we are flying, but we also anticipate that also after CLIMAAX is stopping, some support function will still be there, and so we would like to fine-tune it. And also looking further ahead by monitoring the implementation itself, we can also think about a European synthesis. We could also think about a state of the, say, climate resilience of European regions at some frequency level. So it's really intended to also not only service regions, but also to aggregate the lessons that we can learn from that to the European layer. And yes, I am happy to answer questions after this short speed date session. Thank you for your attention. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bart, for that very interesting intervention. I'd now like to welcome Michaela to the stage for your part.
Yeah, thanks. So, hello everyone. I will try to take a bit more fear off the framework because, as Tatze said, indeed it's a friend, and it should be a friend to all of you, the framework. So, the framework will provide standardized flexibility. That means that the framework can be applied according to your needs, and it will also bring state-of-the-art and proven methodologies. It's based on the risk concept by IPCC, which sees risk as an interplay between hazard, vulnerability, and exposure, and we will also bring in the response. The framework is based on 3 pillars, which form the conceptual background. This background is principles, technical choices, and very central to this, we have the participatory processes. And then, on top of this conceptual background, we have 5 operational steps that should iteratively guide through the climate risk assessment. These 5 steps are scoping, risk identification, risk analysis, key risk assessment, and finally monitoring and evaluation. And very central to the climate risk assessment, you can find the 3 participatory processes, which should be ensured in every step. These are communication, consultation, and most importantly, also learning. These operational steps are then connected, and they also introduce the climate risk analysis tool, which we call the toolbox, which is here in orange. It goes from risk identification to risk analysis and finally leads to the key risk assessment. And we also have this in more detail. The toolbox will mean to explore risk and then choose a workflow, and not just choose the workflow, but also apply the workflow, as Bart just said, either by data that is provided and by the workflow that's provided, but it can also be changed by you, which means the standardized flexibilities really comes into play here. And finally, by calculating the hazard and combining it with exposure and vulnerability data, you can quantify the climate risk and go to key risk assessment. Most importantly, climate risk assessment should also lead towards climate risk management. So this is why we also indicate how we can go towards climate risk management and how climate risk management should finally also lead into monitoring and evaluation and lead to a new climate risk assessment. The framework is still under construction at the moment because we are trying to bring in the feedback from the 5 pilot regions that we have, which are all across Europe, and they really help us to prove that the framework is really working for them and not just working theoretically, but really in its applied sense. So we're very happy to have the pilot regions on board here. And we will continue working on this to make it even more applicable. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, Michaela. Now it is time to go over to the Q&A moment. Here for that are the same speakers, and we also have our esteemed colleague Anna Pirani online to answer any questions that you may have. Also online, I see that we have a first question coming in the YouTube chat. Please, if you're watching online, feel free to ask whatever you want about the topic in the chat box, and we'll try to get to your question as soon as possible. We have a question from Christina saying, could you provide specific examples of challenges that European regions currently face due to climate change, and how can CLIMAAX help to tackle these issues? I think that's a good question for Bart.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, the challenges are widespread. Many people will know about that the climate is changing. And yesterday we had a visitor from the mayor of Setúbal highlighted again that currently we face a 20-degree centigrade temperature here in Setúbal in January, which is very extraordinary. So we see the witness of climate change is there everywhere, but their impact is really, really very varying. You can imagine that people that have regions that are in a coastal area, they are, preparing for sea level rise or storms and coastal erosion. People that are relying on sufficient, say, water availability during agricultural production stages, they are facing challenges to secure water resources for agriculture. People living in flood-prone areas will have to face flood features. And that's the climate part only. We also see a huge diversity at the regional scale in, say, the socioeconomic structure, the number of people that live together, the capabilities of people to, for instance, escape from a disaster in areas with multiple elderly people living, or in hospital areas. Emergency response is quite a different task than in very rural areas where there is lots of space to go. So the point is there is such a diverse, say, set of challenges that actually it was quite a challenge to design a project that could support all that diversity. And that's also why Michaela showed that our motto is actually standardized flexibility. We really would like you to carefully think about your own context and your own challenges, and we will try to accommodate these with a toolbox and a framework that can capture a lot of different types of challenges to bring those to a proper policy for climate adaptation or emergency response. I hope that is answering the question.
And we actually got a follow-up question about that topic, I would say. Someone in the chat is asking for a real-world example of what is happening on the ground. Perhaps Tatse or Michaela would be able to explain a little bit what is happening on like a tangible scale, what real events are taking place in the shape of the project.
I guess this means that people want to hear like local things. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
It is also interesting that in this project, if we're looking at pilots, we have different scales of pilots. For example, there is city, and there is also some kind of region, and in my case, there's whole Latvia. We have to think about whole Latvia, and of course, it is a bit difficult because we have different kind of climate risks. We are near the Baltic Sea. That means that we have a coastal erosion, but we have also heat waves coming up into the cities, for example, and flooding. We have this river called Daugava, and each year there used to be floods after winter, but nowadays the floods are also in the winter because of the climate change. The temperature is rising, and for example, last January we had a huge floods in our river, and one of our cities got underwater. But that climate risk, it's a bit different than, for example, coastal erosion or heat waves, etc. So I guess in each region there might be different kind of climate risks, and each climate risk may affect different people sector and different organizations and so on. So it's a bit complex, and it's hard to answer to this question because the answers might be different from each of regions and so on.